All right, guys, here we go. Chapter 9, questions for study and discussion. So, what is the function of the coating on a stick electrode? That's the $1,000,000 question. So, what is the coating? The coating is the flux. So, it can contain different elements like cellulose sodium, cellulose potassium, iron oxide, iron powder, okay? But each of these things can do something. It can act as a cleaning and deoxidizing agent to remove impurities and oxygen from the molten weld pool. It can produce a shielding gas to prevent the weld pool from reacting with oxygen and nitrogen in the atmosphere that causes porosity and other problems. So we know that oxygen and nitrogen can cause porosity or those little holes in our weld. They also allow us to form a slag coating over the bead to protect it from oxygen and nitrogen in the atmosphere as it cools. And because it's cooling slower, it can make a more ductile weld by slowing the cooling rate. It also provides our easier arc starting, arc stability, and reduction of spatter. And of course, it helps get better penetration and meet weld quality. Okay. So what has been done to ensure uniformity of electrode specifications? Well, the American Welding Society has specifications and classifications of rods. Okay. Now, what symbol has been adopted to identify different types of electrodes? Well, I say not just symbol, but kind of like abbreviation, decoder ring. Okay, so E stands, well, that would be the AWS classification, right? It uses a 4 or 5-digit number to identify the electrodes, okay? Now, we're going to identify E6010. So E is for electrode, 60 is for 60,000 tensile strength, 1 is for position. What position is that, guys? That would be all positions, okay? 0 tells me what? 0 tells me type of coating and current. And 0 tells me it is DC electrode positive, and it tells me that is a cellulose sodium coating. All right, come on down. Let's go. All right, so what is an all-position electrode? Well, it's one that's going to have a 1 in it, so we can say E6010 or E7018. So how can current and polarity in electrode is designed for it to be determined? Well, if we look at the classification, we are going to look at the last number. What factors should be taken into consideration when we select an electrode for a job? Well, there's a bunch of different ones. Let me tell you what the book says. So there's 7 factors. We need to take into account for base metal properties, electrode diameter, joint design and fit up, position, current, polarity, efficiency like deposition rate, and service conditions like what's it going to be used for. So why do we use smaller diameter electrodes for overhead welding? Well, when we make vertical or overhead welds, the largest diameter electrode we want to use is 3/16 of an inch because the weld pool becomes too large to control and it'll drip down on you. Okie dokie. So what should we do when we must be taken in consideration when we store electrodes? Well, we want to make sure that they are in a cool, dry place. What is the specific feature of electrodes with coatings containing powdered iron? Iron powder are made for low carbon steel, high travel speed, high deposition rate. They usually produce shallow to medium penetration, low splatter, and the slag coating that's easily to be removed. Most of these are production production rods. Why are low hydrogen electrodes used? Well, low hydrogen electrodes are used for welding high sulfur and medium or high carbon steel, as well as thick sections. Low hydrogen electrodes prevent the introduction of hydrogen in the weld. We can say, hydrogen, bad. Okay, hydrogen is very bad, and so it helps it. Okay, low hydrogen. And we want to make sure that it makes the best weld as possible, so we use these more on structural material. So what are some of the specific characteristics as a fast freeze electrode? Fast freeze electrode is an F3 group, okay? It is all position. It is crisp, deep penetration, fast freezing weld bead. It produces a thin, tough slag and a flat to slightly convex bead. It's used for all position welding for fabrication, repair, joints, and pour fit up. And they can be used for vertical and overhead positions because they freeze quickly. Some electrodes are classified as fill freeze. What does this mean? Okay, fill freeze, F2 group. Okay, this electrode has a moderately forceful arc, medium deposition rate. The arc and the deposition rates are kind of half and half between fast fill and fill freeze. Okay, or I should say fast fill. Or yeah, you get it. Okay, so fill freeze electrodes, they have easy to remove slag, distinct even ripples. They're usually general purpose electrodes. They're used in production shops, used for sheet metal, repair, and joints with pour fit up. Make sense? All right, so what is the function of the slag? A slag coating protects the weld bead from the atmosphere as it cools. It slows the cooling rate of the weld metal to help produce a more ductile bead. It can contain deoxidizers and scavengers that remove impurities from the weld. Bing, bing, bing. All right. How does joint design affect the diameter of the electrode used? Well, we need to think about this. Root opening. If I'm making a joint and I can't get my rod in there, I'm going to have a hard time. So my root opening can play a big factor in how big of an electrode I'm going to use. So the official is on thick metal with a narrow root opening, a smaller diameter electrode is going to be used. Vice versa with larger ones. Okay, and we're going to make sure that we use the correct rod for what we're trying to accomplish. What organization is responsible for establishing a standard numerical electrode classification? The American Welding Society, or AWS. Which F group includes deep penetrating electrodes? $1 million question. F3, fast freeze. Like what? E6010. Which F group includes deep penetrating electrodes? That would be F3, fast freeze. Boy, I am off tonight. Okay, so I think I did that one twice. Okay, so how are electrodes marked for identification? Well, they're usually stamped on the end of the rod. How should low hydrogen electrodes be stored once the seal on the moisture-proof container is broken? Well, after 4 hours, we want to stick it in an oven from 250 to 300 degrees. All right, guys, as always, take care.